Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
Hey Ellen, you're getting really patriotic this year. I've seen recently you've planted up a British patio container with only British grown plants.
You are absolutely right, I did, and it's a very beautiful British patio container pot at that. And all the plants in the container were from Hillier Garden Centres.
I know, gorgeous lavender. You've got that lovely perennial candy tuft as well. Do you like mine though? I've got that lovely golden acer. Are you jealous?
I am not jealous because mine is nicer than yours. So I planted up a really nice, cool, calming, well-being kind of pot, and yours was fiery and vibrant, wasn't it?
Wow, absolutely. And those plants were from Hillier Garden Centres, and then they actually support Series 7 of the Plant-Based Podcast.
And did you know that Hillier actually nurture over 1 million top quality plants each year at their Hampshire nursery? Hillier are your go-to for quality British grown plants.
So why not visit hillier.co.uk to shop now, or search Hillier Garden Centres on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, and you'll get loads of inspiration for creating your ideal garden or outdoor space. So the closest that many of us have come to seafood is when we step on a slimy piece of it on the beach. Or perhaps you always add crispy seaweed to your Chinese order. In fact, it isn't actually seaweed, it's cabbage, but that is a story for another day. Or maybe you're adventurous and you like to snack on a bit of nori wrapped around sticky rice. This is also known as sushi.
And chances are you haven't realised the full benefits of seaweed to our health, and most specifically to our brain power. And I could do with that this morning, believe me. These foggy days when you're lacking in brain power could be soothed by a dose of iodine, something seaweed offers as a natural source. Seaweed can also help the skin, the nervous system, thyroid and metabolism. So a whole host of wellbeing benefits.
So today we're actually speaking to Dr. Seaweed, aka marine biologist Craig Rose, all about the power of seaweed. So welcome to the podcast, Craig.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
No worries.
It's such a pleasure. This like the whole introduction for a start makes me excited to learn more, because it sounds just the kind of thing I'm super interested in. Selfishly, that's why we do the podcast. It's all about us. But for our listeners, in a bit of a nutshell, tell us all about you. Tell us about your background. Let's, give the listeners all the gossip and how Weed and Wonderful came about as well.
Oh, it's my favourite subject. So, me and seaweed. Thanks for the introduction, because it was a brilliant way of introducing, as you both did, like what people think of seaweed, where they might have experienced it normally, but how we're changing that. But as you said, my background's marine biologist. I'm a doctor in the sense of a PhD marine biology doctor, and that's where the sort of Dr. Seaweed name and brand came from. And I guess my vision has always been, selfishly, I love working with the sea. I love being in the sea. I love being around the sea. But how do we take sustainably things from it that can actually benefit people and really fill gaps, particularly nutritionally, that just aren't in the modern diet? And that's where seaweed is such a massively underutilized resource. But as you said, Michael, it's a bit weird. People aren't really sure what to do with it, how to engage with it. And the Weed and Wonderful brand came about because we actually said, well, it's not weird, it's wonderful. And so it became a bit of a play on words to say Weed and Wonderful. And the Dr. Seaweed was there to give that element of that brand story so that people know my background, and there's an element of trust there and genuine, backstory of where the seaweed comes from itself. It's all from Scotland. We've got our own dedicated production there. And just to put it in formats that people can actually engage with and benefit from.
Okay.
Can I just say, the name Dr. Seaweed makes me
it's
think
amazing.
of, it is amazing. It makes me think of like some kind of sea creature that's all seaweedy.
Oh, so nervous what you're going to say.
With a stethoscope or something, you know, and he's going to come out of the sea and like fix everybody.
I've always been very, very James Bond inspired. So from like Dr. No was obviously a bad guy, but Ursula Andress in Dr. No, her father was a marine biologist and she was a marine biologist. And, you know, I was like 13 years old and she walked out the sea. This was like an impression.
Ellen thinks she's the Ursula, doesn't she?
I definitely, that is definitely one I don't think I am.
So, Craig, or Doctor, talking about the main benefits of seaweed. So we mentioned in the intro iodine, but a lot of us might not know what that is, what it does. So what are the main benefits of seaweed, kind of nutritionally, medicinally, kind of any other kind of benefits there? Can you just run us through those as a top line, please?
Yeah, definitely. So we talk about seaweed in two ways, as a forgotten food. So we all used to eat it. And from a plant point of view, actually, it was used everywhere, pretty much around the world in the food chain. So adding it to soil as fertilizer for plants. So to get all of that nutrition into the food chain, that way feeding it to animals and then eating it ourselves. And that's because it's this powerhouse in nutrition. There's a huge amount of nutrition in a tiny amount, of seaweed. And there's lots of different stuff. All the nutrients are in there. But the key one, as you alluded to there, is iodine. Now, iodine is something people have probably heard of, but don't necessarily know what it is. They might think of it when you paint it on like a cut as an antiseptic type thing. But actually, it's a nutrient that you have to get in your diet. You can't not survive without it. So things like vitamin D, you'll get from sunlight as well as from your diet. But iodine, you have to get in your diet. And the only sources really are fish, but particularly white fish, and then dairy. And both of those are in decline. We don't eat anywhere near enough fish, and dairy, we're having more plant-based, less dairy. So seaweed is actually the only natural plant-based source of iodine, this essential nutrient. And that does lots of things for your health and nutrition that we'll come on to.
Sorry, I was then going to say, isn't iodine, if this sounds ridiculous, please don't mock me, but isn't iodine what you have to take for radiation or something that?
It's something that they have given people for, so basically, if there is radiation, you can get radioactive iodine, and that attaches. So the thyroid is this gland in the neck that has to have iodine to work properly because it releases these hormones T3 and T4, and the 3 and 4 relate to how many iodine atoms are attached. So if there's radioactive iodine around from a nuclear reactor or some sort of catastrophe, then it will attach to the thyroid and it can cause real, problems. So they give people iodine or seaweed as a source of iodine to effectively fill up the thyroid with iodine so that it's not then absorbing the radioactive iodine. Very scarily, we've seen a huge surge in sales of our seaweed in March and early April into Northern Europe and Eastern Europe because of concerns of what's going on in the world. So
I was actually going to say that. Or I just suddenly thought everyone's now going to be on the beach scooping up the seaweed, which brings me just onto the next question very quickly. How do you actually take seaweed? Can you really just literally go to the beach and take some seaweed, or do you need it to be processed in some way?
So, you can, and people go out and forage, and obviously foraging is something that's growing, I think. But most people won't forage. And in some ways that's good because you've sort of got to know what you're doing. So importantly, there's about 10,000 different types of seaweed in the world, different species. None are toxic, but it very much, like any plant, if they grow in an area that's polluted, whether it's heavy metals or radiation, they'll take that up. And seaweed particularly absorb things like heavy metals. So making sure the water quality is really good is really important. So the seaweed itself is fine, but if it's in an environment that's not so fine, it will take that up. So knowing where you get it from is key, but then knowing what to do with it. What do you do with a big slab of seaweed? Yeah. I wouldn't eat that. And you mentioned sushi's great, but that's toasted and salted and all sorts of stuff. So for us, we focus on one species. It's all from the Outer Hebrides around the Isle of Lewis. is wild harvested, but it's a species that's highly sustainable, very scalable into the thousands of tons. And how we harvest it is on these sort of floating lawnmowers that just trim the top and leave most of the plant in place. And then it's dried at very low temperature, and then it's milled to a powder and put in a capsule. So it's a supplement effectively, but it's effectively just a food in a supplement. And we often say, if you didn't like broccoli and you didn't want to eat it, you would dry it, make it into a powder and put it in a capsule, but you're still just getting that whole food. And that's what the seaweed gives.
It's so funny because the moment something's in a capsule, it feels like a medicine, not a foodstuff. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard to imagine that like having sushi, kind of having the seaweed there, is then the same as having it in a capsule. And that must be part of your education as well for the public, right?
It really is. And because as well, we do in these blister packs, that's how it comes in the box. So it feels, and that's so it's clean and that, they're individual and easy to take around. And so people do ask. So for example, because one of the key benefits of our seaweed is around thyroid health, which affects your energy, metabolism, hair, skin, nails, weight gain or weight loss, all sorts of different things. Some people might be on thyroxine or similar drugs for an underactive thyroid, but actually each capsule of our pure seaweed one, for example, so there's a few in the range, has about as much iodine as a portion of haddock. And because it's just a food, it's like, well, has your doctor told you not to eat haddock? Probably not. They might have said don't eat fish and chips because it's high in fat, but they've not said miss out the haddock. That's the good bit. So it is just a food. And as you say, people, because it's in a capsule, are suddenly like, oh, I'm not sure. But you go out, and if you went to Spain for a week's holiday, you might have fresh fish every day and not think anything of it. So that's what we, as you say, it's like the big part of the education is this is a natural whole food. All we're trying to do is make it as easy as possible to fill those nutritional gaps from a sustainable and Scottish source.
Now, having it in a capsule means also that it's not taking up loads of space, and you don't have to deal with the slimy seaweed if you don't want to.
And you don't need recipes and ways to eat it as well.
You can get really, the recipes can be great, but I genuinely, all I do every day, all day is think about seaweed, and I very rarely cook with it. That is a soundbite. That is my life. But no, I would never cook with seaweed because I eat healthy, but I eat, normal food. And one of the challenges is that you might cook with seaweed every now and again, but it is a bit of a pain. You've got to really think, what am I going to do with this stuff? And you certainly wouldn't necessarily have it every day. Yeah.
I love that you say normal, but of course, normal is subjective.
Well, indeed,
normal in Japan would be to use seaweed.
Well, so normal. We all think we're normal, and we're all not.
Humans aren't normal. Humans aren't normal. Let's face it. But seaweed. Another use of seaweed, of course, is to mulch of plants. Like it's a really good mulch for plants as well. So I was talking to someone who's doing hay bale growing, just literally the other day, and one way to prep that hay bale is to actually mulch it with seaweed. So that's, another good use for foraging for seaweed for sure.
It is. Cool. And the key thing that attracted me to seaweed in the very first place was it's probably the only natural, sustainable resource that actually ticks every box of all these mega trends that we're looking at. So you can add it to land for fertilizer, for human food, for nutrition, animal feed. There's loads of work going on to reduce methane reduction in cows, because if you feed them seaweed, they produce less methane, and that's a huge contributor to climate change. It's used for biomaterials like bioplastics, biofuels, making bioethanol and all. So it actually sort of meets all these needs that we're going to have to change to live a more sustainable life. And it's so underutilized and so underused and so sustainable.
It's a really good plant feed in liquid format as well. So we've had Norfolk Olive Tree on their podcast before, and they fully recommend using seaweed liquid feed on olive trees, don't they, as well? So it's an all-round good slimy mess from the beach.
That's not such a good soundbite, but
no. Well, Dr. Seaweed, we've got so much to ask you today. Oh my gosh. But can you tell us about the seaweed that you harvest? Which type is that? And as a kind of secondary question, are most of the benefits in that, or do the benefits alter a lot with the different species and genus of seaweed? Because this is a plant world that I really don't understand. Do they vary a lot between the species?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think because the diversity of seaweed is huge, so where they grow, so let's say it's either temperate water, so further north, further south, cold water, or tropical where you get a bit less. But also, the species, sorry, to answer your first question, the species that we focus on, the scientific name or Latin name is Ascophyllum nodosum. Say that 10 times over fast. Or, common names. So common names for all plants, as you'll know, depend where you are, the change in the world. But egg rack, knotted rack is one of the names. And people will recognize it. It's got like the bobbly bits on, which is a few different species has, like bladder rack is similar and related. But it grows in the area, it's called the intertidal zone. So it's the bit between low and high tide. So that means every day, twice a day, it goes from being covered by seawater to being exposed to the elements. So imagine you're going from seawater to then if it rains, you've got fresh water, UV pressures from sunlight, different predators. So the stresses are huge. And that's every single day of the year, twice a day. So they say this is the most extreme environment to survive on in the world. If you're in the middle of the desert, you've adapted to it being hot all the time, to be, fairly basic about it. But this is a hugely dynamic environment every day. So what that means is nutritionally is things like antioxidants, polyphenols, they create ways to protect their own cells. And iodine is one as well, because it sort of gives off iodine and creates sort of microclimate. And it's fascinating and so understudied compared to terrestrial plants because they're just easier to get at and we've understood more. So there's a lot we still don't know, but because of the extreme environment they grow in, it offers us, in terms of consuming it, some really interesting and beneficial nutritional things. Iodine, as we've discussed, is like the key one because it's massively lacking in the British diet. Up to 80% of women in the UK are not getting enough iodine in the diet.
Wow.
Europe is now considered an iodine deficient continent, and it comes back to that. We're not eating fish enough, and dairy's in decline, and sadly not enough seaweed. So that's what it can give. But then it is important. So the species we focus on has got really good high levels of iodine, but they're not crazy high. Whereas some of the kelps people may have heard of, and they're what's called subtidal, so they're always below the water. They have really high levels of iodine, so can almost give you too much if you're not careful. Okay. And that's why where it comes from, and every box of our products has got the iodine levels on the side. And I mentioned each capsule, depending on the product, because we've got different products, anywhere from a portion of cod to a portion of haddock in terms of iodine levels. So normal, good levels, but we measure every batch. It's our own production. So we're measuring for nutrition, for aspects of safety like heavy metals, etc., and for quality as well. So it's not just any old seaweed bought in from any old part of the world. It's from pristine waters in Scotland, and we're measuring every single batch. But another key reason that we focus on the species we do is the sustainability of it. So if we want to really have everybody taking seaweed everywhere, we have to make sure we can actually get hold of it. So there are some really nice seaweeds that you can get that are beautiful colors and great nutrition, but actually getting beyond, a few hundred kilos can be quite challenging and also very expensive because it can be small and have to be done by hand. Whereas the one we focus on, there's loads and loads of it. It's very sustainable. It grows back very, very quickly. It's very carefully regulated as well.
Hi guys, Adam from Vivara here. Hope this finds you well, and I can't believe we're already into June. Where did that last month go? It's sunny and lovely, and I'm sat in my garden waiting for the Jubilee to start. And I was just thinking about all the things that are going to happen wildlife-wise in your garden over the next few weeks. So firstly, all the birds that we were talking about last month, they're starting to fledge now. So they will be starting to come out and learn how to fly, start foraging for their own food. So keep on giving them a high energy food base, maybe some fat. But other wildlife that's going to be in your garden could include maybe some butterflies, which we will start to focus on for the summer. We're really lucky because we sponsor the Big Butterfly Count, so we get to speak to the Butterfly Conservation Trust and find out about all the cool and exciting things that are going on. But yeah, if you are thinking of doing something in your garden this month, why not plant up some wildlife friendly plants or even some butterfly friendly plants. You can get dwarf buddleias now, so a buddleia that doesn't take over your garden but does attract the butterflies. Maybe some lavender, things like that. Something that will attract the butterflies to your garden. Stick in a really lovely butterfly house or an insect house with some slats in it, so it's somewhere for the butterflies to shelter from the rain, and all of a sudden you've got a lovely little habitat there to get more wildlife into your garden. Everybody have an absolutely lovely month. Look forward to speaking to you soon. Love to you guys, and enjoy being in the garden.
Check out the Plant-Based Podcast on Instagram. We have got an amazing competition for you in association with sponsors of Series 7 of the podcast, Hillier Garden Centres. You can be in with a chance of winning a bundle of plants, either a hot and fiery bundle or a cool and calming bundle. Check out our reels to find out more. Just thinking, like, with so many benefits, what you've just run through and growing it sustainably and everything, why do you think that seaweed hasn't really been on the agenda, before? Why is this a relatively new thing?
I just wish we knew. No, I think it is. It's interesting. It's like the question that we ask ourselves every day, because it's actually not new. It's forgotten. Before the Industrial Revolution in the West, seaweed was used, as we said, on land for animal feed and human food. 2.5 million years ago, there was a study, the study wasn't done 2.5 million years ago, it was done on people 2.5 million years ago, where they found that as the climate started to change, we were hunter-gatherers at the time, and we went from quite terrestrial environments to more coastal environments. And it gave us access to seafood and seaweed, and that gave us access to nutrients we weren't getting, like fatty acids, iodine, zinc, and that led to the development of the modern human brain. These essential nutrients for brain development that are still needed today, from brain development in pregnancy all the way through life. So we've always known it's good, and all the research shows people inherently know seaweed's good. Whatever that means, they sort of know it's good. And we talk about the health halo of seaweed, that if it's there, it's perceived to be good. Or something like kale. I don't really know why kale's good for me, but I buy it because I think it's good.
Okay.
But it doesn't really matter so long as there's that positive perception. So I think there is a knowledge that it's good. And in the research that we've done, what people say is, whilst they recognize it's good, they're not really buying it because it's not in formats that they know what to do with. And as you said before, Michael, in Japan, it's quite a staple normal food. But in Europe, the UK, the West, it's just not. And so by putting it in supplement format, that's what we're starting to open.
But I have to say, actually, in Wales, they do eat lava bread with cockles. Yeah. That's a very traditional breakfast. And very often you can buy them off eBay. You can get 2 tins for £10. And I would order that. And sometimes me and my partner, we really enjoy these seaweed. We make them into little kind of burgers with oatmeal. And they're really cool. But that must be a good input of seaweed into our diet if we're having this full seaweed cake, as it were. So the Welsh have known for a while.
And the Irish as well, and even in Scotland. But it's a traditional food that just isn't eaten that much anymore. Whereas you would have had lava bread as a proper breakfast every morning. Back in the day. But now, toast with Marmite.
We need some revival, like a seaweed restaurant or a seaweed cafe that is, oh my God, you could spearhead this. You could have seaweed could become the next big sandwich filling. Seaweed and cheese, that might be cool. Or seaweed, Ellen, are you kind of doing the sick face there?
No, I was laughing at
this
the
reference to Marmite
on toast.
In UK, we're so scared of anything that's a little bit other and different. And maybe that's not even a UK thing. Maybe whatever country, whatever culture you're in, anything that's not from that culture is kind of weird. But sometimes we really miss out on things with great benefits by not embracing those different foods. And sometimes it's sad because it needs to be in a digestible format. Look how many years it took sushi to become popular, because it kind of we've made it in a way that kind of looks similar to what we eat and stuff. And so, you know, at Tesco, like obviously in the Tesco Express, you'll pick up sushi that's kind of got this cucumber in the middle and this and that. And it's kind of like they've like British-sized it in a way. But
No,
I guess we always need to do
I,
that to make it more accessible, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it's that we're scared. I just think that it's a different culture, and it's about education, isn't it? Just like what you were saying about seaweed at the end of the day. It's about educating people so that they know what it is. And I think we're more open to experiencing different cultures now and different foods, definitely. And the food scene in the UK has taken a huge big leap over the past however many years. So I think it's more about introducing things that we wouldn't perhaps know about, you know.
Well, I guess kale came a long way, didn't it? I know we touched on that, but that's a great example of, you know, you almost need seaweed to have the kale promotional drive.
And things like turmeric as well, you know, it's just blown up. Why does anybody know suddenly why turmeric's like everywhere? But it's really good for you, and there's been great messaging, but it is about format. So we actively avoid talking about seaweed as this culinary delight, because I will be the first to say seaweed can taste really good in the right foods, but equally it can taste pretty not so good. So it is a cultural thing and an education. So our first approach is in capsules, as we've said, because supplements. People go to seaweed because it's healthy, not because it tastes great. If I want something that tastes great, I'll buy a dairy milk. If I want something that's healthy, I'll buy, some seaweed. And then there's things in between. You get like, your nut bars and stuff where you get some great flavors, but it's a bit healthier for you. So it is definitely about education, and it is about format. Like you say, it's about putting it in ways that people can engage with. And one of my bugbears, I guess, is what we always do is look at what people need and want and try and respond to that, instead of just saying seaweed's fantastic, you should all love it, and why don't you? Which has been the approach of some people. And then that, especially British people, we hate to be told what to do. So, it's like if people have a certain expectation idea, then let's try and see how we can respond to that and give them what they need. Or say, look, there is actually this big nutritional deficiency. This could help. Please try it. And so, it is a challenge, but it's definitely going the right way. And because of the sort of stores we're in, we're in mainstream places, and that's a great sign that it's being recognised, and we're not in sort of small niche.
Yeah, and I think we're right. We talked about kale and turmeric, and I think with hindsight, they have become quite large, and so we kind of think, we're not really embracing health foods, but we kind of are in a way. It just takes a little while for those to get in, doesn't it? So
and also, but I will just say, I will not be eating cheese and seaweed sandwich, because that sounds horrible, Michael.
Until you try it. How do you know you don't like it?
Right, I'll tell you why you're wrong, because we all, as well as our team, she's totally wrong. As well, she's Marmite, for God's sake. As well as selling our seaweed as supplements, we sell it as ingredients into food manufacturers and nutrition companies.
Yeah, where's it used?
So Marks and Spencer's did a cheddar with seaweed in, with our seaweed granules, and it was fantastic, and it balances beautifully, because seaweed has been used for years for the umami, this flavor enhancing. So you get things like your miso soups and these stocks, like dashi stocks, because it's got the seaweed in that depth of flavor. So even we used to supply it into Premier Foods, a Bachelor's pasta and sauce, and it was the cheese and broccoli, and they used it to reduce the salt content because it balances well.
So
I'm just really rubbing in how wrong you are there.
See it as well.
Yeah. And it, on some products, it's the front of message selling point because consumers want to see it. On others, it's purely functional to enhance the flavour. Yeah. But basically, Ellen, that was a terrible comment about the cheese and seaweed. It's fantastically tasty.
I really want to try it. Do you think it's still in stock or not?
that one they changed, and because it was like it was there for a couple of years, and then they move on. It was like a sort of British concept. But even honestly, what you can do is I can send you some of our. We do like a granule. It's about the size of ground black pepper. Adding it to like a cream cheese, and it just works really well. In that you'll get. And we do a smoked one as well. So like the seaweed has got a smoky flavour. And it almost tastes like, depending how much you put in, like sort of smoked salmon and cream cheese. Do you have that slight flavour of the sea?
Oh, I'm well into that. Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh.
I'll show you. I don't eat cheese. Like I'm a vegan, so I wouldn't eat
put it in the vegan cheese.
I wouldn't eat the cheese and seaweed sandwich anyway, unless it was not really cheese.
But in all honesty, so as a vegan...
Don't roll your eyes at me, Michael.
We know you're vegan.
She's seen me roll my eyes. As a vegan, genuinely, there are no other vegan sources of iodine except seaweed, naturally. So I get a bit scared because some vegans get a bit sensitive when you say this to them, but it is such an essential nutrient. And if you're not getting it from seaweed or a synthetic source, but there's all sorts of reasons why that doesn't work as well, then you're just not getting it, and it can have health issues. So one of our key, but it's not vegan. We're all going more plant-based, and we've actually developed the site's called Iodinetest Online. It's like a website. It takes about 5 seconds, 10 seconds. It was developed by a nutritionist. It's 5 simple questions. How much dairy do you have? How much cheese? How much yogurt? How much seafood? And how many eggs? Obviously, it should be none for you if you're vegan. And then it gives you an answer. So I eat pretty well, and I'm not vegan, but I don't have dairy at all, tiny bit of cheese. And I was only on 73 micrograms a day of iodine. Now you need 150.
Oh, wow. We're going to do that.
Now, because I take the seaweed capsules every day, I'm well over that, and it's not a problem. But in terms of your regular diet, most people aren't having seaweed. I would have been deficient, and that, as we discussed, it affects your thyroid, which affects your metabolism and energy, skin, hair and nails, ability to lose weight or weight gain, cognitive function, brain function, loads and loads of different things. Wow. So it is really key. And so if people are listening, go to that iodinetest.online and just give it a try. There's no taking.
I think that's a good point, though, just to add in there. And that is, there's so many different vitamins and minerals that us as humans need. It's sort of, not entirely, but sort of irrelevant what lifestyle you choose, whether you're vegan or not vegan, because even those who eat meat and dairy can be very deficient still 100%. In many different vitamins and minerals. So it really depends on what you're eating, what you're doing, what supplements that you're having. So don't, for anyone listening, don't just assume that being vegan means you're going to be deficient in one thing or another. However, I am very, very pleased to say I do have a box of Dr. Seaweed's capsules sitting right next to me. So
hey, Ellen, what would be brilliant is if we both do the test. That would be cool, wouldn't it?
And see what happens.
Because I certainly wouldn't say I'm healthy necessarily, so it will be interesting to see where we fall on that.
I would see, there's nobody we've done it with. The odd people, especially with a few people we work with in Italy who have more of a Mediterranean diet, so having more seafood, and they've been okay. I can't think of one. There's one person in the UK that we've done it with who, because she had a lot of dairy, was okay, but everybody else is too low. And it's the same with lots of nutrients. And as you say, Ellen, these are not vegans. These are people who are on a, inverted commas, normal diet, but it's still massively lacking in this essential nutrient. So,
God, this is brilliant. We could talk about seaweed all day, but we need to not necessarily wrap up, but I want to talk about other things that come from the sea. What else is there to discover? Algae, different sea plants, seagrass, is that used in any way? Yeah.
So, I mean, like, for example, you mentioned at the start about sort of brain fog and cognitive, which iodine's essential for. But as you mentioned, algae, we've just literally actually launching now a focus product. So this is all, and this is the fourth in the range that we do. So we've got our pure seaweed, which is just 100% organic Scottish seaweed in the capsule. We've got an immunity product, which is the seaweed plus vitamins B12 and D3, all natural and plant-based, all 1-a-day capsules. And then we launched a menopause product based around the sort of health of the seaweed plus sort of B-complex vitamins and other vitamins and red clover to support symptoms of the menopause. And the latest is around focus. It's about brain health, mental performance, eye health and vision, but energy as well. But in there, what we've done differently is a 2-a-day, this one. So we have the seaweed, but it's also got this natural B-complex and zinc as well. But then we have from algae. So algae actually covers seaweed. So you've got your microalgae, which is your teeny tiny stuff, and you've got your macroalgae, which is your big stuff. So the real name for seaweed is marine macroalgae. So it's basically the big algae that lives in the sea. but your microalgae has things like your omega-3s and DHAs in. So a lot of people will go to fish oils, krill oils for these essential sort of fatty acids, but actually going back to the source where the fish get it from is the algae. So we have these soft gel algal oil capsules, which are totally vegan, and they've got these essential omega-3s, which are essential for brain function as well as eye health and things like that. Mm-hmm. So there's so much good stuff, we were talking before about people's perceptions of seaweed just being good, but I think, as you say, Michael, the sea just has this like positive perception that stuff that comes from it is healthy. Obviously, people hear about microplastics and bad stuff that happens, and that's us doing bad stuff to the sea. But inherently, the sea gives us so much, and there's this natural wonder about what's under the sea.
Yeah, a lot more to discover there for sure. I got one final question actually with a plant that I have loved for many years, but it's just above sea level. I don't know if you know Wolfia globosa, which is the smallest flowering plant in the world. This is a very nutritious. This has got more protein than soybeans. And I've seen there's a few online companies trying to make startups to kind of, culture this, say on the worktop at home in a little kind of incubator, because they're tiny, tiny plants. You could fit a bouquet of them through the eye of a needle, but they're so nutritious. And that is another interesting frontier, because that has a lot of goodness and obviously takes not very much space to grow when you compare that to some other foodstuffs out there. Have you heard of this one? That might be a nice one.
I haven't actually. No, it sounds really intense. Does it grow near the sea? Does it grow near the coast?
No, well, it kind of grows mostly in Asia on calm waterways. It's like duckweed, pretty much.
Right. Okay.
Probably about 1,000th of the size of a typical duckweed that we know in the UK. But it's they use it in Thailand quite a lot as a kind of food stuff, and they'll use it in salads or they'll make an omelette with it. And it's kind of like this green sludge, which would definitely put off most English audiences. But yeah, it's really, really cool plant. And I think that's got a bright future as well. So yeah,
it is.
Sorry, that was my last little input.
No,
I'm obsessed with the sea.
It all links together because there's so much we still don't know. And that's what fascinates me, the amount of stuff there is still to learn.
Definitely.
Well, it's been really interesting. It's definitely kind of opened our eyes up to the benefits of seaweed even more. Now, your Weed and Wonderful range, which I love just the name of it anyway. If you were to start taking it, how soon might we see results from taking it? Will we feel better?
You will feel wonderful, as the name implies. But normally what we say is it obviously depends on your wider diet, because this is not a medical drug. It's all about proper nutrition, getting great nutrition. So we say to people, give it 3 or 4 weeks. We're on our own website, which is drseaweed.com, but doctor spelled out DOCTOR. We give like a 30-day money-back guarantee, because we know when we get such incredible feedback and testimonials that it does work. So basically, we say to people, try it for 30 days. If it's not working, send it back. But give it that time, give it sort of 3-4 weeks and see how you feel. And there's different products we mentioned for different life stages or different needs, but they're all based around the sort of wonder of seaweed.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. Very cool. And where can people find you online then? Where can people look up your products and what you do, find out more about you?
So the website, which is the drseaweed.com, but importantly, the spelt out in full, DOCTOR seaweed.com, or just Google Dr Seaweed. Hopefully there's no one else out there. And it's got a bit about my background, about the products, the work we do. But equally, we're in Boots and Holland & Barrett and on QVC. So some people, they prefer, or maybe they've got their Advantage card or whatever else. So there's lots of options. I don't really care where they get it from, so long as they give it a try. And as we say, the normal thing people feel benefit is the skin looks better, the hair gets thicker, and their energy is just better because it affects your metabolism and all that stuff. So definitely give it a try. And also, social media, get in touch with us over there if you've got questions. We've got a nutritionist in-house who's on hand to answer questions if people have them. So yeah, lots of ways.
That's very cool. So basically, Dr. Seaweed, and whatever picture that conjures up for our listeners, it's probably not what you think.
Well, maybe they can post in some, what does Dr. Seaweed look like if they've not seen it? And then interesting to know. some
We
old
want a
guy.
profile photograph of you to promote this episode of you dressed up as a piece of seaweed, please. That would be great.
Yes.
Correct. So long as it's not me in a wetsuit and there's any sort of fetishes going on. All right.
I think there's always a market for that sort of stuff as well.
There sure is. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. It's been really, really interesting, and definitely will make me look at seaweed in a different way.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us. And we're in the top 5 at the moment, so hopefully this will keep us there, if not higher. Very interesting episode. Thank you, Craig.
Thanks for that.
It's me, Dr Radha. I'm back talking all about the life lessons that nature can teach us. I've always loved sitting in the garden, reading a book, listening to my music, or just generally just my feet on the ground and feeling relaxed in times of trouble. And the great thing about nature is, for our well-being, it's universal. It's not some huge ancient forest that might be miles away from you. It's actually everywhere. It's in those tiny little plants you see, those weeds in a pavement, for example. You can find nature every single place you look. Just look up to the sky and you'll see nature. It's always there for you to be a constant companion and reminder that things are okay. And nature teaches us a lesson about life too, that life is in balance, or at least our lives should be in balance, or we should at least try to make them in balance. Nature is always really well balanced. It knows how to regulate itself. It knows when to have a rest, when to consolidate, and it knows when to thrive and flourish and bloom. It knows also that it can't keep on thriving and working hard all year round. And that's something we all need to learn too.
Series 7 of the Plant-Based Podcast is brought to you with the help of Hillier Garden Centres,
bringing you over 155 years of horticultural expertise.
Shop their top quality British grown plants,
both across their 19 garden centre locations or online.
And to find your local centre or shop online, visit hillier.co.uk.
Or search Hillier Garden Centres on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram for inspiration on creating your ideal garden.
Barcelona. Barcelona. Sorry, that's about as much as I know.
Well, I love, Ellen, that we started to record this. We had a false start today, so you've already sung Barcelona to me twice.
I actually practiced.
I think your first rendition was better.
I practiced this morning, especially.
Oh,
I can't sing. I sound like a cat. Anyway, how is Barcelona?
It's wonderful. Well, we've just recorded an interview for a couple of weeks' time, and so I'm going to use a word that we learned during that time, and it is woliday, which is a working holiday.
A working
holiday.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the word. I think for us, every day is a holiday. As in, because we work doing something that we love, it's sort of like a holiday even though you're working. Then when you are officially on holiday, you're still working a bit. So I think every day is a holiday.
I think, this week I've had a few meetings, recordings, doing the Japanese presentations tomorrow morning at 6 a.m, I must add. But also, I think when you're interested in plants and that's your career, you're just you want to see plants everywhere you go. So then everything's a holiday.
Exactly. Every day's a holiday. If you're a plant lover, every day's a holiday.
How are you, though? I heard you're off to the country of lava bread.
I am off to Wales at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning as well. So that's an early start for both of us.
That's cool.
So I'm going to the Big Retreat Festival where I'm doing a talk. And I know I've shown it on my Instagram loads, but I don't think I'm ever going to get over the fact that my name is on the same lineup as Top Loader.
That's cool. It makes it look like you are a band. Finally, Bananarama lost all their members apart from one. But what are you going to do then? You're like demos or talks or like?
I'm obviously going to sing and dance, aren't I? No, I'm doing talks in Darwin's Den. It's called where there's cool. So the festival is really all about health and well-being. So mental health, well-being, physical well-being. There's like yoga and Tai Chi and meditation and fitness classes and wild swimming and loads of talks about good nutrition, and it's huge. And then so cool. I'm there for 2 nights, a Friday and Saturday night. So it's going to take me a good 7 hours to drive there tomorrow. So it's a long old drive.
Pembrokeshire?
It is in Pembrokeshire, so right over the other side of Wales. And I'm obviously right over the other side of England, aren't I? Over in Norwich. So it's a long old drive.
Oh, Ellen, drive carefully.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. I will try my very best. In case you hadn't thought of that already. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I must just say, I don't know much about Wales at all. I'm going to tell you a little story that I haven't told very many people.
Yeah,
when I was 16 years old, or maybe 17, I used to play the saxophone. And I got a job working for the summer at a holiday park in Tenby in Wales, which is really close to where the festival is, right? Yeah. And my mum was devastated. She cried. She didn't want me to go, but I was adamant I was going to go and play my saxophone in a band in Tenby on a holiday campsite, right? So we packed up all of my stuff and we drove all the way to Tenby, and we got to the holiday camp, and my mum was still crying because she didn't want to leave me there. And I lasted one night. And early in the morning, the next morning, I knocked on the caravan that my mum was staying in. And I said, please, can you take me home? And we packed all of the stuff up and we drove all the way back. And that is the only time I've been to Wales.
Oh, my God, that's really sad. I hate little things like that, of young people being sad. How old were you, sorry?
Sad? I wasn't sad. I was about 16 or maybe 17. And
you were sad because you wanted to go home, no?
No, I wasn't sad. Well, I don't think I dare tell you the full story, but something happened on the first night that I was there that literally blew my mind, because I was so young and so naive, and I realised that I wasn't ready for this world just yet, and so that's why I decided to go home. I basically wasn't ready for the world of holiday park entertainment, should we say? Anyway, that one night is the only night I've been to Wales.
Ellen Mary.
And so there you go. So I'm really looking forward to going to Wales, and I'm going to visit some gardens while I'm there as well.
Oh, that's perfect. What will you eat? Some lava bread, because it will be very good for you, and it's seaweed, so it's plant-based.
Okay, well, if I can get some, then I'll give it.
You can buy it in little tins. Yeah, it's really, really good for you. Like I often buy it off eBay. You can get like 3 tins for like £10 or something.
Is it vegan?
Well, it's seaweed, so I would guess so, no?
Oh, seaweed, yeah, but I guess is anything else go in it? I don't really know, but this is good. I'm going to have to Google it.
It's just seaweed in a tin, so I would guess so. I mean, traditionally, you'd have it like with a Welsh breakfast, like with bacon and like cockles, which obviously won't be up your boulevard. But what we often do at home, we make a kind of almost like a little patty with oats.
Right.
And then fry them, and it's kind of like this little kind of like seaweed burger almost, which is very nice. I wholeheartedly recommend that to you. What's the other thing? Welsh cakes.
Yeah, Welsh cakes. I can remember those.
Which is like a scone someone sat on.
Yeah, that's right. I can remember those. I probably won't be eating one of those, but yeah. So that's exciting. What about you? What are you doing over the next few weeks after like your working week? You're then going to have a chill week, aren't you?
Oh, I didn't even tell you why I was in Barcelona, did I? For Dua Lipa. She asked me to come to her concert.
Okay, sure. Did you get up on stage as well?
No. I stay in the shadows with that sort of thing, Ellen. You know me. So that was great. And going around different places, just kind of hanging out, just enjoying the cloudy weather today, I have to tell you. So to anyone who's like, oh my God, it's in Spain, it's so glamorous. It is cloudy. So just so you know. Do you know, the other thing I was thinking, when we just did this other interview that's out in a couple of weeks, and the interviewee, who I might not reveal at the moment, was talking about how a garden changes and evolves. And I was thinking, like, especially because I'm away a lot for work or little holidays here and there, I think you'll probably see the same in your garden. Like, you actually see a lot more evolution because you see the real gaps with it. And that is almost more exciting in a way, because you then go back to it after 2 weeks and it's like, oh, that has really changed. And I always remember when I was a kid being fascinated that we would go on holiday like for a week in July, and I'd always be fascinated by how much the tomato plants would grow literally in a week. And so it's kind of, I think you don't always see the change when it's like every day, but when you then go away and come back to it. It's always fascinating. But of course, like you said this morning, it's always a nightmare to then get ready for a trip, because you then have to do all the watering, all the tidying, kind of make sure it's all fine while you're away, which is also a ball ache, right?
It is, but I was just thinking, right, today I've got some work to do. We've got this recording to do. I need to do some housework and some packing to go away and all of those things.
Housework?
But what I was thinking was, why do we clean up before we go away? Like, why do we clean our house before we go on holiday? But it's like, you're not here, so it doesn't matter if you haven't cleaned up. So but
if you come back to a house that's proper messy, that's just...
Well, I've just relegated that duty to the bottom of my list. Any excuse to not do it.
Well, usually the cleaner would come in while I'm away, so there you go.
The cleaner? I don't expect me to clean as well as water your plants while you're away.
Well, I only say bougie stuff on purpose, so...
I'm in charge of watering your garden and checking on your houseplants while you're away.
You are, just a couple of times, as is my dad as well. Sorry, I'm just... as you know, Ellen, I'm sharing a room with meetings with my partner this week, and I've just thrown a piece of paper in the bin that he was using as a mouse mat. I'm glad I didn't have any special notes on. So I'm now serving him a new piece of paper.
Okay, as you should.
And delivered with 2 hands, Japanese style. There you go.
As you should.
I think I'm in the cat house. Right. What else did I want to bang on to you about? I hear, Ellen, that you've been doing some dried flower projects.
Oh, I have been doing some dried flower projects. Have you seen my reels?
I haven't, but you told me to ask you about it.
Let me show you one behind me. Look. Isn't that cute?
Oh, that's really cool. It looks like it's in a corset.
Isn't it awesome? So
it's like flower bondage.
With string around it, and then just simply dry flowers put in, but it looks really lovely. So, and I've got a new one to do as well, which is to press the dry flowers in glass frames. So,
that's cool. Do you know, I haven't pressed
They're on my
that
reels on Instagram. Ellen Mary Gardening, everyone. Go check it out. Thank you.
Ding to the dong. Oh, but I love that creative. Oh, I've got something creative to tell you about, actually.
Yeah.
I've been doing stacks.
Yeah, of alpines.
Yeah. But also I've made a wildlife one as well with lots of summer flowering bedding plants that are really good for like insects, bees and butterflies, like Bidens, kind of, if you're Gora at the back as well. Yeah. Or you might say Gaura, because the other day on TV, someone said Guillaume rather than Giam. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Did the world collapse?
Gardening social media held its breath. Like, chill out. Anyway, back to the stacks. This is basically, stacking the pots up and planting in between. I think this is the future of planting, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that I will be officially banging on about that for the next 6 or 7 weeks.
Joy.
You know this, I was thinking, like, when I was last looking at my garden, you know this no mow May?
Yeah.
Well, no mow May is fine, right? But I feel like in my garden in May, it's like no flower May. Because, like, I really realised that I don't think I planned it very well, because, you know, in May, the only thing that's really giving you anything is alliums.
Yeah.
And it really is that moment before the perennials sort of come. Like, what have you had colour from in May?
So in May, I've had hardy geraniums, I've got red valerian, I've got camellias, I have got geums, I have got, did I say alliums? Alliums. I'm looking.
But you're in June now, so you can't really answer this question.
Oh no, this was all for May. How cheeky are you? But there's been some colour. I think you need to plan better for May.
I think I need to insert a few more, because it really is. It can be a weird bridging month though, because obviously the tulips have just kind of spaffed their last, and then you haven't quite got your perennials coming through. So and obviously, what do you do? This is obviously a big contentious issue, but are you cutting away your tulip foliage or what?
Oh, yes, I'm going to cut it all away. In fact, I'm probably going to lift a lot of my tulips this year.
Oh, my gosh.
I've got some that come back year after year after year, and I've had them for years, which is pretty incredible.
You can't predict it though, can you?
No, you can't. But I didn't have a very good tulip year this year, so they're just all going to come up, and I'm going to replant my tulips just like a mini Keukenhof in maybe October.
But you'll replant the same ones, you mean?
No, I'm not going to replant the
new ones.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of spent a bit. I can't remember now, but someone told me why they don't necessarily go the next year, but I can't remember what they told me now.
They're edible. Did you know that? Tulip bulbs are actually edible.
Yeah.
They're like onions, or a lesser version of onions.
Yeah, I had some at a trade show once that were pickled. They were kind of nice, a bit earthy. Yeah.
I think they're a bit earthy. Yeah. I believe they were used during the war when there was a shortage of onions.
Yeah.
So but I won't be eating them, I might add. They're going on the compost pile, but yeah.
But you could do an experiment. Don't be shy.
No, I just don't want to. But also, there's a lot of experiments that can be done, and I'm out of time.
They are vegan, by the way.
I'm feeling very feisty, by the way.
Your reflector looks nice.
My reflector?
Over your left shoulder.
Here?
Yeah.
Reflector? What reflector?
Diffenbachia.
Oh! There it is, yeah. I didn't even realise you could see that in the shop.
Yeah.
There it is.
That's
it's looking
cool.
nice, isn't it? Very indirect light. I mean, actually...
And your oxalis as well.
The oxalis is very, very happy. I've had this for a few years. I actually split it and replanted them. So I've got a few more. Can you see that there?
Yeah. Do you know they grow from the most stupidest, smallest pieces of corn, don't they?
Yeah. Tiny.
It's just mad.
You can put quite a few of them in a pot together.
Tiny pieces of grit. It's like, what are you doing?
I know, it's incredible. And some of them are flowering. So this one that I split and then I put these into another one is now flowering and they grow so quickly. Isn't that pretty?
Totally.
Pretty.
It's great.
Anyway, are you visiting any gardens in Barcelona? Are you visiting any gardens in Barcelona?
No, I don't think so, actually. I'm not. I've been to the one here a couple of times before, actually. Yeah. Sometimes it's nice not to. Although I haven't looked. Maybe I will end up doing some. But
have you been to the
nice,
Gaudi gardens?
No, because again, we've been before. So, yeah, and probably twice anyway. So kind of just trying to just see different neighbourhoods, kind of this and that. Just kind of not have agendas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's nice. Just to wander.
But what's very cool, I'd been quite often in May before. But I'd never been like in June, and the jacarandas are in bloom, which is super cool to see those in the streets. Yeah. Oh, actually, I keep saying jacaranda. They might be paulownias. No. Oh, I don't know.
I think jacaranda. You need to check out.
It was all ferny. But yesterday there was also some gorgeous albizia as well, which is super cool.
I did see your.
And actually quite hardy in UK as well. Albizia.
There's the Bishop's House Garden in Norwich in the city centre has a huge albizia and it looks absolutely phenomenal. It's in like a walled garden, but it is amazing. And there's a lovely one at Wisley as well.
I've been there, but in the weird autumn time, wasn't it?
We done a photo shoot there, and that was autumn time. Yeah, it was
How's
a few
your
years
weather,
ago
Ellen?
now. Pardon?
How's your weather?
It's nice. It's nice and sunny today, which makes a change because it's rained the last few days. So yeah, I must get to the allotment in a little
probably
while.
Good for my garden though. I planted out my sweet peas in their controversial positions.
What's controversial about it?
They're just going to weave through the border and just do what the hell they want.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Definitely.
I love that you experiment.
I've underplanted just before I left. Obviously, you get all your planting done before then. I underplanted my bay trees with random sedums.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, because it's going to be kind of really dry there and it's not really going to get any care. But why not cover the ground and just have these kind of sedums in standards in a container. But I think it's going to look really cool actually. And a few kind of mesembryanthemums dotted through there as well. So
we don't do a lot of underplanting in the UK around trees
so
and in containers and stuff. Like in North Carolina, you see it a lot, but you don't see it so much here.
Be putting there?
Any bedding plants, actually, to be fair, mainly, and lots of trailing plants like creeping jenny. I see all over the place. So things like that, But it just really fills the space. You don't see a lot of bare soil.
I don't know what our problem is. I don't know if we kind of think that we're going to be taking the energy from the tree or something.
Well, I guess it's going to compete for nutrients, isn't it? The tree was going to take the nutrients away from the bedding plants or perennials.
Yeah, but
I suppose. But then you have to feed them like we would.
Yeah.
Anything else, I suppose.
Well, I use kind of the sedums because they probably won't take much. So I guess that's a better way to go. Because
also, like you said, it doesn't have to stay like it. It doesn't have to stay like it forever. Well, you can switch it up.
Well, do you know what? As well, this wonderful interviewee that we had just before we were recording this gossip was talking a lot about edits in the garden, which was really interesting because a lot of us kind of think, oh, that's how it has to be. We can't change it. We can't move it. And she actually confessed, like, certain plants she moved 3 times, I think it was, which is great because, you know, gardens can evolve and change and edit along the way, and people panic too much about that. So, yeah, of course you could underplant your bay tree this season and then not have it next season the same. So, yeah, because I put Nemesia under my cherry laurel.
Oh, did you? Wow, that would smell amazing.
Calicicephalus as well. Lovely.
Nice. Get you.
Ding to the dong. Anything else to tell me before you leave for Wales?
No, nothing else to tell you before I leave for Wales. I'm glamping, so I'm looking forward to it. It's going to rain.
Ask that.
Apparently it's going to be raining, so obviously I'm worried about frizzy hair.
Oh, your hair's going to go all Spanish. Do you know, I couldn't put my hands in the air at Dua Lipa last night because every time I put my hands in the air, I was then suddenly had my hands in a Spanish girl's hair. Because there was just all this frizzy hair everywhere, honestly.
See, that's what a girl doesn't want to happen.
I don't think Spanish girls mind.
Oh,
you should be more Spanish, Ellen.
I'm good, thanks. Spanish, I did live in Mallorca for a while, by the way. I lived in Mallorca for a few years, and the Spanish women
Did you worry about your frizz then or not?
No, actually, because mainly it was just constantly tied up because it was hot. So it didn't really matter. But yeah, Spanish women are amazing.
Why don't you tie your hair up much now?
Because I'm getting older, so you can just see all of the lines and things.
Oh, shush it, honestly. You sauce.
I do tie it up, but I will tell you, this is so non-plant related. Half of the reason why I don't tie it up is because I just can't be bothered to do my hair. Like, there's so many other things to do in life that actually trying to work out how to put my hair up nicely is a whole...
Oh, I see. Oh, I don't know all this science.
Yeah. Anyway, going now. Lovely to chat with you. Enjoy the rest of your holiday.
Don't run away too soon because I want to hear what happened in Tenby.
Oh, no, that's definitely for a different time.
See you later, darling.
Bye.
The music for the Plant-Based podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.